Imagine this. You're walking into a room full of native English speakers.
Oh, that is always a stressful moment.
Right. I mean, maybe it's a really busy networking event or, a friend's birthday party or even just a crowded coffee shop on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah, totally.
You look around and people are laughing, the conversation is just flowing, and you desperately want to jump in. You want to sound like you belong.
Of course.
So you take a deep breath, you step up to a group, and suddenly your mind just goes completely blank.
Like a deer in headlights.
Exactly. You start frantically translating like all these grammar rules in your head. But what is the secret to sounding totally natural in that moment? Well, Hugh is a massive surprise for you.
It's actually not what most people think.
No, it's not. It's actually not about having the perfect, grammatically flawless answers.
Right.
The real secret is knowing the exact right questions to ask.
That is honestly the perfect way to frame it. I mean, questions are the actual engine of any human conversation.
Right.
They show genuine interest, they create a natural rhythm, and most importantly for the learner, they take the heavy pressure off you to do all the talking.
Which is a huge relief.
Exactly. When you ask the right thing, the other person gladly does the work for you.
So, on that exact note, welcome everyone to Dale English class. We are so incredibly thrilled to have you joining this session today.
So glad you're here.
If you want to keep mastering real-life English and, avoid those awkward silences and just sound more natural every single day, please interact with this video. Like, comment, share this class with your friends, and make sure to subscribe to the channel right now.
Absolutely. Hit that subscribe button.
Today, we're embarking on a very special audio exploration. We're going to decode the most vital real-life questions that native English speakers rely on every single day to navigate the world.
And we really need to clarify something crucial right up front.
Yeah, please do.
These are absolutely not the stiff, formal questions that you usually find in traditional textbooks.
Right, the robotic ones.
Yeah, exactly. These are the daily lifelines of natural, informal conversation. Our mission today is to explore the mechanics behind these phrases, why native speakers use them, and how they completely change the tone of an interaction.
So by the end of this class, you'll basically have a toolkit to instantly boost your conversational skills.
That's the goal.
So let's start right at the doorway. I mean, every conversation has a beginning. We have to break the ice.
Always the hardest part.
It really is. We
Yeah.
need to figure out where people are going, why they're there, and how to make them feel comfortable in our presence.
Right.
Think about a friend grabbing their coat to leave a gathering. Textbooks tell us we should clearly and carefully ask, where are you going?
Which nobody actually says.
Right. Native speakers almost never say that. Instead, it sounds much more like a line from a movie script like, where you headed?
It's such a brilliant shift, really, because when we say where you headed, we're actually doing a few different things. Well, first, we're implying a direction or a destination, which just feels less intrusive than demanding to know someone's exact location.
Oh, that makes sense. It's softer.
But physically, what's fascinating here is how the pronunciation actually changes in fast daily speech.
Right, because we completely drop the word are, don't we?
We do.
We don't say where are you headed, we just blur it all together into where you headed.
Exactly. The words just melt into each other. And it's not about being lazy with language, It's about efficiency and warmth.
The breath moves forward.
Yeah, dropping those sharp consonants softens the question. It makes you sound incredibly approachable rather than like a strict teacher checking attendance or something.
That actually brings up a great comparison for when you meet someone who is newly visiting your city or your country.
Now, this is a big one.
It is, because the rigid textbook reflex is to ask, why are you here? I know, I always wince when I hear that, because why are you here sounds like you're sitting under a bright light in an interrogation room with a border patrol agent. It is so aggressive.
It creates instant defensiveness.
Yeah.
That is exactly why native speakers naturally pivot to asking things like, what brings you to New York or what brings you to London?
This feels so much better.
Listen to the difference in the semantic framing, right?
Yeah.
Why are you here?
Yeah.
Focuses on a demand for justification.
Right.
But what brings you here personifies the journey.
Yeah.
It implies that a story or an adventure or an opportunity basically guided them to your city.
Oh, I love that.
It's a warm, welcoming invitation for them to just share their life choices.
It really is an invitation to tell a story. And speaking of welcoming people, if you're actually hosting that person in your home or at your office, there's a massive cultural staple you just have to know.
Offering a drink.
Yes. Offering a drink is a universal sign of hospitality. But we don't just, hand them a cup. We ask, how do you take your tea? Or how do you take your coffee?
This is a perfect example of how language builds these tiny micro-connections.
Yeah.
When we ask, how do you take it?
Yeah.
We aren't just giving them a beverage. We are asking for their specific personal preferences.
Like, do they want it black?
Right, or do they want it white with 2 sugars? It feels accommodating. You're showing that you care about their comfort down to the smallest detail, and that just builds immediate rapport.
Okay, so they have their coffee, they're comfortable. Here is where the dynamic usually shifts, and I actually want to challenge this a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
In casual settings, almost immediately, native English speakers will ask, what do you do? Now, to a lot of learners, asking about someone's job right away can feel a little abrupt or even a bit too transactional.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Is that just an unavoidable part of how we break the ice?
That is a very fair critique, honestly, and it's a massive cultural reality in English-speaking societies.
Yeah.
Often, personal identity is just heavily tied to profession. But practically speaking, asking what you do is used as a safe, neutral ground. And notice the phrasing. They aren't asking what you are doing right in this exact second with your hands.
Right. They don't mean, what are you physically building right now?
Exactly. They mean, what is your profession?
Hmm.
Or how do you spend your days? It basically gives the other person a chance to talk about an area where they are an absolute expert, which is, their own life.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a reliable fallback. So the ice is officially broken. We've offered them coffee. We know their profession. We know the story of what brought them to the city.
The baseline is set.
Once that baseline is established, the conversation naturally moves to checking in. This brings us to the famous "how are you" family of phrases.
Oh yes, the classics.
But let's be honest, native speakers rarely use the robotic textbook "how are you," do they?
Very rarely. I mean, if you pronounce every single syllable, like how are you, it can actually sound a bit heavy or overly serious for a casual catch-up.
It sounds like a doctor asking about my symptoms.
Exactly.
Mm.
Instead, the rhythm of daily life relies on phrases like, how's it going? Or, how are you doing?
And once again, it comes back to those heavy vocal contractions. You rarely hear every single letter.
Nope.
You hear the missing G's, it sounds like, how's it going and how you doing?
If we look at the underlying mechanics here, these phrases function more as greetings than actual inquiries.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they are basically a social handshake. They are not literal requests for a detailed medical breakdown of your physical health.
Right.
They're just a vocal rhythm, a way of signaling, I see you and I acknowledge your presence.
I have to push back a little here, though, because this is a huge point of confusion for learners.
Okay, go ahead.
If a coworker passes me in the hallway and says, how's it going? Is it a trap?
A trap.
Yeah. Like, do they actually want to hear that my alarm didn't go off, I got a flat tire, and I spilled my coffee all over my shirt? Or is it purely a polite reflex? Because answering honestly sometimes feels like dropping a bomb on the conversation.
It is not a trap, but you are right to be cautious, because context is everything here.
Okay.
90% of the time, in a hallway or a coffee shop, it is purely a polite reflex. The socially expected answer is simply, great, thanks, or not bad, you.
Just keeping it light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, if you're sitting down in a quiet room with a close friend, and they lean in, look you in the eye, and say, how are you doing? The mechanics change.
The slowing down matters.
It does. The slowing down of the phrase signals that they genuinely want the detailed, honest truth. You really have to read the room and the body language.
It's fascinating how the exact same words require totally different answers based entirely on the speed they're spoken.
It really is.
Now, if it's a friend I haven't seen in a couple of months, I probably wouldn't just say, how's it going? I would probably ask, what have you been up to?
Precisely. From a grammatical standpoint, this is a beautiful use of the present perfect tense.
Right.
You're asking for a bridge of life updates starting from the last time you saw them, stretching all the way to this current moment.
And surprisingly, the most natural, native-sounding answer to what have you been up to is often deflecting it, right?
Yeah, with things like, oh, nothing much, or I've just been so busy with work.
It really is the standard script, but let's pivot here, because tone changes absolutely everything in English.
It sure does.
We just established that what have you been up to is a warm, friendly catch-up. But what happens when that exact same phrasing is used to express suspicion?
Oh, this is where language gets incredibly nuanced.
Yeah.
Let's look at the phrase, what is someone up to? We just heard it as a greeting. But imagine a mother who suddenly realizes her two toddlers are being perfectly unnaturally quiet in the next room.
Oh no, that's never good.
Right. She wouldn't smile. She would narrow her eyes, lower her voice, and say, "What are they up to?"
Yes. The shift in tone completely rewrites the dictionary definition of the words. Suddenly it means, I am highly suspicious. What chaos are they creating behind my back?
Tone dictates intent. The syllables are exactly the same, but the delivery shifts the phrase from an invitation to a full-blown investigation.
Which perfectly sets up our next scenario. Let's say you investigate that quiet room, or you look out your front window and see 3 police vans suddenly parked on your street with their lights flashing.
You definitely wouldn't ask what they're up to.
No, you would naturally ask, what's going on?
You use this phrase when you observe a sudden problem or a disruption in your environment, and you just lack the context. You need an explanation for a confusing situation.
Right.
It is also highly effective in social disruptions. Like, if two of your friends are suddenly arguing loudly at a dinner party, you step in and say, "Hey, what's going on here?"
It's a demand to clarify the chaos.
Exactly.
Now, zooming in from environmental chaos to emotional concern. Let's say the party's over and you see your friends sitting alone, looking really sad or crying. You would approach them and ask, what's wrong?
Pure empathy. Asking what's wrong simply means, are you okay? Is there a situation causing you pain that I can help you solve?
It's gentle.
Yeah, it's gentle, and it focuses on the external problem that is affecting the person.
But wait, this is a trap that so many learners fall into. If we take that beautiful, empathetic phrase and just add 2 little words to the end, it becomes a massive explosion.
Oh, yes, it does.
The phrase becomes, what's wrong with you? I always tell learners to think of it this way, and tell me if you agree. The difference between what's wrong and what's wrong with you is exactly like the difference between offering someone a tissue and handing them a mirror.
Wow.
Right. One is pure empathy for their situation. The other is a total, direct accusation about their character.
That is a phenomenal analogy. Tissue versus mirror perfectly captures the psychology of those 2 extra words.
It changes everything.
If you say, "What's wrong with you, bro?" you are no longer offering help. You are severely criticizing their judgment.
Yeah.
Like, if your coworker decides to play a prank and hides your boss's car keys right before a major meeting, you wouldn't softly ask, "What's wrong?"
Definitely not.
No, you would stare at them in disbelief and shout, "What's wrong with you?" It's a heavy accusation that they have completely lost their mind.
It's a complete attack. So please, everyone listening, guard those 2 extra words carefully.
Very carefully.
So we're escalating from simple accusations into full-blown shock now. Let's move into the phrases native speakers use when they are completely baffled, betrayed, or, just dealing with the bizarre.
Okay, let's do it.
If someone does something truly unforgivable, we use a phrase that feels very dramatic. How could you?
It is essentially a rhetorical question that expresses deep, cutting betrayal.
Like if you find out your best friend secretly stole a job opportunity you were applying for.
Exactly. You don't actually want them to sit down and explain the literal mechanics of how they sent the email to the recruiter.
No, you don't care about the how.
Right. You just look at them and say, "How could you?" It means, "I am so hurt, my brain literally cannot process that you were capable of this."
It carries an incredible amount of emotional weight. But obviously, not every day is a soap opera.
Thankfully.
What if the situation isn't a massive betrayal, but just something that is really weird? For example, you walk into your office on a random Tuesday, and there are balloons tied to every single chair, but no one is saying anything.
That is when we say, "What's up with the balloons?" or "What's the deal with the balloons?"
Yes.
These are your absolute essential tools for pointing out life's daily oddities. "What's up with?" or "what's the deal with?" allows you to notice something strange and ask for context without sounding alarmed.
Right.
Like during a shortage, you might ask, "What's the deal with everyone buying so much toilet paper?" You're just observing the absurdity of the crowd.
I always laugh when I think about what's the deal, because isn't that basically the universal catchphrase for every stand-up comedian in the 1990s?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Comedians built empires on asking, "What's the deal with airplane food?"
Exactly.
But the reason comedians use it is the exact same reason we use it in daily life. It's the perfect casual way to point out a shared annoyance or a strange observation.
It's lighthearted.
Yeah. It invites the other person to look at the weird thing with you and share your confusion. It's actually a fantastic bonding tool.
It really is. But let's flip the script for a second. What if you are the one who did something terrible and you're just now realizing it?
Oh, that's a bad feeling.
That is when the shock turns inward and we ask, what have I done? Or what have you done?
This raises a really important point about how we use grammatical structures to process shock. Notice we are back to the present perfect tense.
Right. What have I done?
You use this in moments of absolute panic. Imagine you're typing a highly critical private message about your company and you accidentally hit reply all and send it to the entire office.
Oh,
You
no.
stare at your glowing screen in sheer horror, cover your mouth and whisper, "What have I done?"
It's terrifying.
The present perfect makes the consequence of your past action linger painfully in the present moment.
Oh, my heart rate just went up imagining that reply all scenario. We have all had a moment like that.
We really have.
Okay, so we've covered baffling environments and shocking mistakes. Let's pivot to baffling people. How do you respond when someone's attitude suddenly changes toward you, or they challenge your authority directly?
This is a good one.
This brings us to behavioral shifts and defensiveness, and the first one is incredibly spicy. Who do you think you're talking to?
This is the ultimate assertion of status or power when a boundary has been crossed.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine a teenager who suddenly starts yelling demands at their mother. The mother wouldn't just answer the demand. She would stop completely, lower her voice, and say, "Who do you think you're talking to?"
Wow.
It is a sharp reminder of the hierarchy. It means, I demand respect, you have forgotten your place, and you need to correct your tone immediately.
It is a conversational stop sign. Now, what if they aren't challenging your authority, but they are just acting really weird and uncharacteristically negative?
That is when you ask, what's gotten into you?
Uh,
If your friend is normally the calmest, most patient person in the world, and suddenly they start angrily honking their car horn and shouting at traffic, you would look over at them and ask, what's gotten into you?
because it's not like them at all.
Right. The phrasing implies that some invisible external force has physically entered their body and hijacked their normal personality.
Eh.
You're basically asking for the root cause of this sudden negative shift.
But I love how flexible this concept is, because what if the sudden shift is actually a good thing?
What do you mean?
For example, my notoriously cheap uncle, who never pays for anything, suddenly stands up at a restaurant and announces he is buying dinner for all 20 people.
That would be a shock.
I wouldn't say what's gotten into you. I would use a much more playful phrase. Who are you and what have you done with my uncle?
Oh, that's perfect. What's fascinating here is how playful and sarcastic English can be when you reach a higher level of fluency.
Right. It literally sounds like a line from a science fiction movie about body snatchers. Like aliens have beamed down and replaced my uncle with a generous clone. Exactly. But native speakers use it for something as mundane as a friend choosing to order a healthy salad instead of a massive burger.
Precisely. It is a dramatic, humorous hyperbole. You are telling them, this good behavior is so unusually positive for you, you must be a literal imposter.
It's a joke.
It functions as a compliment, acknowledging their good choice,
Mhm.
but it's safely wrapped in a joke so it doesn't feel too emotionally heavy.
It is so fun to use once you get the hang of it. All right, we are getting close to the end of our exploration today. Let's look at a defensive reflex.
Okay.
Sometimes people make assumptions about us and we need to push back. We use the phrases, why would I, or why wouldn't I?
You deploy these to express absolute surprise at someone's assumption.
Right.
If a roommate asks, "Did you steal my lunch from the fridge?" Yeah, you would respond defensively, "Why would I?" The unsaid meaning is, of course I didn't, I have my own food. Why would your brain even jump to that conclusion?
And the other side of that.
Conversely, if they ask, "Are you going to your sister's wedding?" You say, "Why wouldn't I?" Meaning, obviously I am going, it's my sister. The fact that you even asked is absurd to me.
It effectively turns the interrogation right back onto the person asking, which
Wow.
leads perfectly into our next point about questioning things.
Okay.
Instead of just directly asking why, which can sometimes feel, I don't know, aggressive, native speakers absolutely love to soften it by asking, how come?
How come? Is the ultimate casual substitute for why.
It really is everywhere.
If your friend texts you and says, "I can't come to your party tonight," replying with a blunt why can feel demanding, almost like you are owed an explanation.
Right. It feels a bit confrontational over text.
But replying with how come feels infinitely softer. It sounds supportive, curious, and just much more conversational. It removes the pressure while still asking for the reason.
Okay, let's zoom out and unpack this entire journey we have been on today. We have covered so much ground.
We really have.
We went from the physical mechanics of breaking the ice with a fast "where you headed" to the social handshakes of "how's it going?" We explored the deep empathy of offering a tissue with "what's wrong?" right up to defending our own sanity with "why would I?"
It's quite a spectrum.
And that brings us to the final phrase in our exploration of daily English. It is the ultimate rhetorical question that almost every native speaker naturally breathes out when they look back at a wonderfully long conversation or just a really fast-paced week. And that is, where does the time go?
It is a beautiful, almost philosophical phrase to end on.
It really is.
You use this when time seems to have just evaporated. Maybe you're looking at old photographs of your children growing up, or maybe you are just wrapped up in a great chat over coffee and you suddenly realize 3 hours have passed.
Yeah.
You sigh, you shake your head, you say, where does the time go? It isn't a question about physics. It is a shared emotional acknowledgement that life just moves incredibly fast.
It really does. Which brings us to the ultimate summary of today's class. The mission here wasn't just to, memorize a list of phrases.
No, not at all.
Mastering these questions is your ultimate shortcut to fluency. It is the key to abandoning robotic, rigid textbook English. Understanding the tone and context behind these phrases allows you to navigate everything. From a friendly coffee shop chat, to diffusing an office misunderstanding, to defending yourself with complete and utter confidence.
Exactly. When you internalize the why and the how behind these phrases, a magic thing happens.
What's that?
You actually stop translating vocabulary words in your head. Instead, you start listening to the music of the language. You match the other person's rhythm, and that is when true connection happens.
And that leads me to a final, slightly provocative thought for you to take away today. We started this whole session by imagining you walking into a crowded, intimidating room full of native speakers. We said the secret to survival was asking the right questions. But think deeply about what we just learned. From the dramatic "how could you" to the philosophical "where does the time go?" So many of these phrases aren't actually asking for literal data.
They really aren't.
So I leave you with this. If our daily interactions are so heavily built on asking rhetorical questions where we already know the answer, how much of our everyday speech is actually about gathering literal information versus simply creating a shared, comforting social rhythm with the people around us?
That is the beautiful core of human connection. The questions are just the music we use to invite someone else to dance with us in conversation.
What an incredible way to visualize it. Thank you all so much for joining us for this session. Once again, a massive, enthusiastic welcome to the Dale English class community.
We are so thrilled to have you.
We really want to hear from you. Which of these conversational questions surprised you the most? Did you realize how dangerous "what's wrong with you" actually is?
Let us know in the comments.
Yes, interact with us. Like this video, leave a comment down below with your thoughts, share this class with your fellow English learners, and please subscribe to the channel for more clear, accessible, and expert English guidance. So the very next time you walk into that crowded room, remember, you don't need to have all the perfect answers. You just need to know how to ask the right questions. Keep practicing, keep talking, and we will see you in the next class.